Samurai position. Oh, wow.
Looking back at 2017, it was such an amazing year for gaming, especially when it came to the abundance of indie games that came out that year, including one of my favorite games of all time, Cuphead. A challenging run and gun shooting game that, while yes, is challenging, can be extremely fun. Definitely in my top 5 favorite games of all time. And of course, this game was heavily inspired by the rubber hose styles of cartoons from the 1930s that definitely made it stand out. Another indie game that was inspired by this art style was Bendy and the Ink Machine. While yes, a very different game compared to Cuphead, being more towards a horror game, but back then I was heavily invested into Bendy and the Ink Machine compared to Cuphead. While Cuphead was a completed game, Bendy would be updated when it came to its chapters. Like having to wait months for the game to be completed. Now, of course, this is where my whole love for Bendy really started, with the first 2 chapters, and then with chapter 3, 4, and 5. And ever since that final chapter came out, I never played Bendy and the Ink Machine ever again. That was the last time I ever played the game. And ever since then, I've never played any other Bendy game except for this one. And I did play Delicious Last Course when it came to Cuphead, but no Bendy. And it's been a long time since I played this game. And the truth is that without Bendy and the Ink Machine, this channel wouldn't exist, and that definitely goes for my avatar. I have been a huge Bendy fan ever since this game came out in 2017, but wow, I just never acknowledged this game, like, at all. So I thought, since it's Halloween, why not talk about this game, and what works and what doesn't, and my overall thoughts on this game. So without a further ado, let's talk about Bendy and the Ink Machine. The game begins with Henry getting a letter by his old friend Joey Drew, asking him to check out the workshop after 30 years, and this is where the game truly begins, with Henry entering the workshop, aka Joey Drew's studio, which is an animation studio that Henry used to work at. The first 2 chapters do a great job of introducing the players into this abandoned building and intriguing them into wanting to find out more about what happened to this building. Once you complete the first chapter of the game, we are introduced to the villain of the game, the Ink Demon, that very much resembles Bendy, but covered in ink once you turn on the Ink Machine. After that, you go apparently more deeper into the building, mostly going through the music department and dealing with these annoying Bendy cutouts that just appear out of nowhere and actually are more scary than the jump scares in the actual game, since they just come out of nowhere, they just pop out. And then after you get near to the end of chapter 2, we are introduced to Sammy Lawrence, a employee from the, studio, who believes that the Ink Demon is a god and all of that. And then apparently he gets killed by the Ink Demon, and we run away from the Ink Demon until we run into Boris. Then we get into the 3rd chapter, which just makes the studio just bigger and introduces new mechanics. It's also the longest chapter in the entire game. We are also introduced to a new villain in the game, Chalice Angel, who, she's just ugly from the outside and inside. And of course, she wants to kidnap Boris for herself so that she can become beautiful or something like that. And of course, she successfully does that at the end of chapter 3. After Boris is taken away, Henry tries to rescue Boris, but once you get to the end, you realize that it's too late and that Alice has turned Boris into Brute Boris. Just a huge abomination, and easily the best fight in the game. Like, out of all of the boss fights, this is the best boss fight. After you defeat Boris, you are almost killed off by Alice until you are saved by another Alice. This is Allison and Tom. They were affected by ink, and they used to work at the studios as actors. This brings us to the 5th and final chapter of the game, which somehow feels smaller and just disappointing. Now, there are some good things like the new mechanics and I guess a little bit more of exploration. I don't know why, but apparently Sammy Lawrence is here. Apparently he didn't get killed off by the Ink Demon, and he's definitely the most awkward fight in the entire game. But after you're done with that, you get new to the end and you finally face off with the Ink Demon, which is just a pathetic boss fight, man. It could have been so much better. Once you defeat the Ink Demon with the dumbest weakness I've ever seen, you get a chance to meet Joey Drew, and Henry goes back to the first chapter of the game. When I first completed the 5th chapter, I was very confused. So were many of my friends. Nobody understood the ending to this game and what it meant. From start to finish, this ending simply does not make sense. But what if I told you that apparently this ending actually does make sense, but you do have to play another Bendy game, and that is the sequel for this game, Bendy and the Dark Revival, which I haven't played. But apparently in that game, the real Henry was not wanting to work at Joey Drew's studio anymore due to him starting a family, and Joey was very angry about this. He got so angry once Henry left the studio to the point where he used the ink machine to create a version of Henry that would go through this endless cycle of hell throughout the studio that we experience in Bendy and the Ink Machine. Totally not complicated at all, right guys? Jokes aside though, Dark Revival does show us how Henry does look like the version of Henry that we play in Bendy and the Ink Machine. And I mean, yeah, I would imagine Henry looking like that. But, yeah, that's it for Bendy. I know that there was some spin-offs like a Boris game and a mobile game. But besides that, that's it. That's all I really know about Bendy as a franchise. And ever since then, it just seems like nobody cares about Bendy. And it's just not as big as it used to be back in 2017. But in December of 2023, we got an announcement that they are making a Bendy movie, which was very surprising to me. Also, as of the time of me recording this video, we got news about who is actually going to be the director for this movie. Andre Overdahl, who I'm not too familiar when it comes to his movies, but to what I've seen from his category, he seems to know what he's doing when it comes to his horror movies. This has the potential to be a good adaptation of Bendy, but as of right now, the movie has not come out yet, but when it does, I am going to make a video on it. But for now, I'm just going to leave it here. Anyways, thank you all so much for watching. Have a safe Halloween, and I will see you all next time. Bye.
She